Good evening, dear students. Today we will talk about fossilization. And at first, let me introduce you with the content of our today's topic. So we will start as usual with introduction. Then we will talk about accepted concept of fossilization, about its classifications, about its types and causal factors. So fossil reduction will be the last point for our today's discussion. Let's continue. Introduction. What's a fossilization? Let me explain the word fossilization with my own words and with the simple words. Fossilization, it's when you, maybe at your school times, maybe in the kindergarten, you have learned the language, and after that you learn something it's wrong way, in a wrong way. So for example, the pronunciation, maybe the grammar rule, even after 10 years you repeat the mistake again and again. You cannot correct yourself, and it means like fossilization. So for example, imagine that I know many students who pronounce like advantage. So it's not advantage. I all the time say it's advantage, advantages and disadvantages. But so unfortunately it's not their mistake, because from their childhood, maybe from their school times, they learned it to pronounce as a advantage. It's just an example. It's just a real life example. Let's continue. Okay, at first let me read the academic definition of the word fossilization. It's a permanent session of target language learning before the learner has attained it. First language learning before attaining your target language. And in all discourse domains, in spite of the learner's positive ability, opportunity, and motivation to learn and accelerate into target society. So introduction. What is fossilization? Fossilization is, as I mentioned above, it is a typical errors. It's the acceleration of the learning process. It's a persistent, non-target-like performance and stabilized errors. So as you see, the using errors in target language becoming as a normal thing, Maybe even I have some parts of fossilization in my speech. So we will continue with the statements of fossilization. So it's a systematic use of erroneous forms. So it means that, so as I mentioned, you use all the time the same mistake, again and again. It comes automatically, it comes naturally, because in your childhood you learned in this way. So you cannot do anything, I guess, with it. And structural persistence. So you may confuse the structure of the sentences, maybe structure of your speech, so that it is also causal effect to fossilization. So long-lasting free variation and persistent difficulty. So as you know, while learning a second language, you may have many challenges, and it's an inability to fully master target language features describing the similar meaning, which lead to confusion for quite a long time. So let's continue with the next page. So accepted concept of fossilization. The accepted concepts of the term may appear at numerous language levels. So when I speak numerous language levels, it means age of learners, So it may occur in any level, in any aged people, among any aged people. So for example, the among the children who are in their fifth or sixth, and among adult people, among the elderly people, even we can see the negative effects of fossilization. So it may occur at different learning stages among age groups, so it is the same. It may be either structure fossilization or competence fossilization, and it is usually manifested as forms of the target language norms. And as you see, there are soft and hard degrees of fossilization. So hard, and when it's said like soft and hard degrees of fossilization, it means that it's about your mistakes. When you have soft mistakes and when you have hard mistakes, and soft mistakes, maybe it is a little bit like close to a right, like maybe grammar structure. But what about the hard mistakes? So as I mentioned, it can be your pronunciation. So that try to avoid both types of fossilization, both degrees of fossilization. And then let's classify fossilization. We have like two classification of it. In the first one, like individual fossilization and group fossilization. So it is about the person, and people in groups, and the temporary fossilization of permanent and also permanent fossilization. So what is individual and group fossilization? It is also divided into two: error reappearance and language competence fossilization. So what's error reappearance? Let me read it. It is an inappropriate into language structures that are thought to have been corrected by continuing to appear regularly. And in the second statement, it is about competence fossilization, and it is the plateau in the development of second language learners, phonologically, grammatically, lexically, and pragmatically. It is about the competence itself. And then, so about the group fossilization, because of group fossilization, new dialects come. Maybe in the past, the groups of people were the causes, maybe were the reasons for a new dialects in current life. So that is a natural thing. So we have the classification of fossilization. So they are divided also into two, and they are temporary and permanent fossilization. So when it's said temporary fossilization, it is also called like stabilization, that indicates into languages which consists of learning process, and where development of given target language features is simply arrested or inhibited for shorter or longer periods of time. So it is the permanent, it's a temporary, for temporary period time, and the permanent, it's long-lasting process. So as you see, it takes place as a result of social, psychological, and interactive variables. So as I mentioned, it is a really long-lasting process. And then types of fossilization. As I mentioned, we have phonological fossilization, morphological, syntactic, semantic, and pragmatic fossilization types. So as you see, we may have problems with the phonological fossilization. So I mentioned an example above, and we may have morphological fossilization, morphological mistakes and fossilization, and we have syntactic issues and semantic errors at the same time, the pragmatic ones, So pragmatic fossilization, it is Also, pragmatic fossilization, also called pragmatic failure. So the word fossilization itself means like failure. So in this case, pragmatic will be also a failure, I can say. So Tom's views like pragmatic failure takes place in the cross-cultural communication, and it refers to the inability to understand what is meant by what is said. So it means that pragmatic fossilization is not always like understood by all people, because sometimes people cannot understand what was said or what was written. Yeah, even like many students have problems with reading like articles. Yeah, so for example, let's take an IELTS examination, and in the reading passage of the examination, we have facts. Yeah, we have data about everything, maybe about the animals. Yeah? About the discovering some kind of places. So in this case, students may not understand what is said, because as you see, if they like don't have problems with their pragmatics, like pragmatic abilities, let's call it like that. So in this case, only like they can understand it, but otherwise they cannot. So it's an inappropriate language use results in misunderstanding, embarrassment, and even insult. So it means like the using the language without understanding, and it can cause to misunderstandings. Yeah? And then we have causal factors of fossilization, and they are 6. So I want to count 6 of them. So the first one is language transfer. Language transfer, in our previous lesson I explained what is language transfer. Language transfer is when you took all the grammar rules, all the vocabulary, all the structure of your language, of your first language, and you put it into your second language. It means like language transfer. So as I mentioned, language transfer may be positive and negative, but unfortunately in most cases it causes to negative effects, because not all languages have the same grammatical structure, have the same vocabulary. Yeah? So that fossilization in this case like may have language transfer problems also. Trading transfer, and we have the overgeneralization. Overgeneralization, it is a little bit close to language transfer, because as you see, in language transfer, maybe you took a part of your language and you want to use your first language, like putting it into your second language. But in overgeneralization, you overgeneralize everything, yeah, from your first language to a second language, so that it's also a negative thing. And communication strategies, and the last one, learning strategies. Communication strategies like means your speech. Yeah. So what about the learning strategies? It's again the skills: reading, writing, speaking, listening, grammar, and vocabulary. So language transfer, I have mentioned about it. It is the errors in the use of second language result mainly from first language, and there is the difference between first language and second language is the reason for the occurrence of errors. So as you see, because of comparing our two languages, I mean the first and second languages, it may cause to many problems. Yeah. And then, so the transfer of language first. So as I said, it can be positive and negative. So in the positive one, it's the similarities shared by the first language to a second, but in the negative, they are not like similar to each other. So I think that it's enough for today. See you tomorrow, I guess, and next time we will talk about bilingualism. Goodbye.